Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nerding Out on Neurodiversity, the podcast for all things neurodivergence. I'm Dr. Matt Zakreski, clinical psychologist and professional speaker, and I'm happy to be your host through the wild trails of the neurodivergent world.
And I'm Jake Noonan, educational coach and humanities teacher, your co-host and producer, and I'm thrilled to help share the stories and the experiences of wonderful people in the world of neurodiversity.
We're really excited for today's guest, which we are going to say a lot because we're always really excited about every guest we get. So let's get into it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Nerding Out on Neurodiversity. I'm your host, Dr. Matt Zakreski, clinical psychologist, professional speaker, published author, wearer of many hats. With me, as always, is the Tweety bird to my Sylvester the cat, Mr. Jake Noonan. Say hi, Jake.
Hey everybody, glad to be here as always. Isn't Tweety always like in a cage the whole time?
but also like clever and causes trouble. So like I think it's appropriate.
I'll take that. That's fine.
Oh man. And we have a really exciting guest today. Marc, could you introduce yourself to our audience and tell us what it is you do?
Thanks, Matt and Jake, for having me on the show. I'm honored to be here, and I know you guys do some incredible work in the community and out globally in the world. I'm on board. I'm happy to be here, and I'm excited to join forces with you as we go out and transform people's lives. And most of my career, I've journeyed with professional athletes, high achieving champions in their craft. Just last year, I got the tap on the shoulder. Hey, I want you to finish the work I've given you, and I want you to raise up this next generation of teens. And I'm thinking, all right, who's tapping me on the shoulder here? I could feel it. And I knew that it was a new purpose and a new call in my life to influence this next generation. So I've spent years transforming adults, and now I'm transforming teenagers, helping them to unlock their full potential and overcome years of complacency and mediocrity in a 3-day workshop. And that 3-day workshop, well, it just didn't pop up out of thin air. 30 years ago, I was 30 years old. So simple math, yes, I'm going to be 61 next month. So 30 years ago, I found my 3-day workshop, and it was a 3-day weekend. And I was at a point in my life where I had 17 years of drug addiction from the time I was 13 to 30 that was running my life, and I couldn't stop. And I really didn't want to die. I just didn't want to live like I was dying any longer. I didn't want to continue to go through life suffering and struggling, and the miserable existence that I had, being a victim, blaming everybody, all the unforgiveness and bitterness that I carried with me. And in that 3-day workshop, God set me free from the addiction, healed me from the unforgiveness, showed me how to become personally responsible. So I traded in the victimhood for personal responsibility. And the whole trajectory of my life changed at that point because I changed my subconscious thinking. I shifted the paradigms that had run my life and that had ruled my life for so many years. And all of a sudden, I became this unlimited possibility of hope and promise and purpose. And so I went on a trajectory or a path of personal growth and development, so much so that not only did my life transform, but I was able to partner with some of the greatest athletes and entrepreneurs of all time and go through life with them. So that's where it all started.
I mean, and just what a story. And when you were working with those like high level athletes, like what were the things they were bringing? What are the things they needed to change?
Dr. Matt, it's amazing. Jake, you could probably relate to this too. It's just amazing how somebody at the top of their craft, somebody that's a 4-time heavyweight champion or Olympic gold medalist or a golf legend, along the way, they stumble. They start to forget who they are. Their identity intelligence takes a hit. And so I help them in a framework of intelligences. I help them to regain their personal power by redefining who they are in their identity. And so I've taken that framework and I've brought it to the Dream Teen Academy 3-day workshop, where I'm teaching teenagers how to define who they are, decide what they want, and design a plan to succeed. And I call that the intelligence trinity: identity intelligence, define who you are; emotional intelligence, decide what you want; and then navigational intelligence, design a plan for success.
Like, and in my line of work, right, like that's very analogous to the stages of change model, right? The idea that like you may not even know what you want. You know what you want, you know how to get there, and you know what you want, and you know how to get there, but you're afraid to do it. Yeah, I mean, that's like we're all change agents. I say to my clients all the time, like, if it was easy, you would have done it already. That's why people like us in the programs we offer are helpful, because they provide that structure and that community for that accountability, right? Like, let's move you forward. Like, obviously, you want to make the varsity team, or you want to make the Olympic team, or do whatever that thing is. And wanting it is a great start. Wanting it isn't enough to get us there. It's enough to get us started. We've got to have a plan to get us there. So, Mark, without like sharing the secret sauce here,
Yeah.
you do. How do you reach these kids? Because, teens are famously open-minded and flexible and willing to listen to grown-ups, right?
That's the $1 million question, right? That everybody's looking for the answer to, whether you're a parent or a teen, whether you're an adult or a young adult or a kid. And even before making the varsity team, there's these two things that I think everybody in life wants, no matter how old we are. I want to feel like I'm good enough, and I want to feel like I belong. I was a starting varsity catcher in 10th grade at Miami Beach High School. Usually you don't start varsity until you're in 11th or 12th grade. I'm starting in 10th grade, and I still didn't feel like I was good enough. I still didn't feel like I belonged. Why? Because of my past experiences that were front-loaded in my subconscious mind, telling me that I wasn't. All the failures and all the falling short and all the painful past that added up in the back of my mind kept telling me that I wasn't good enough and I didn't belong. So forget about making the varsity team. How about just the fact that we can help humanity decide that they are good enough, that you do belong? They say that the greatest 2 days in a person's life is the day that they're born and the day that they know why. Understanding my purpose in life and laying hold of that truth, so important. Now, I didn't get that till I was 30 years old. I don't want teens to have to suffer an extra 15 years. I want to help them get it now when they're 12, 14, 16, 18 years old, so I can eliminate years, decades of suffering for them, trying to figure out who they are, what they want, and how to go dominate their life.
That's awesome. I have a question from that is like, can you share with us one of your favorite success stories from a teen, like when you started, that really like inspired you, was like, this is good work and I'm glad that I'm doing this and I feel empowered by this?
I got a call from a woman and she wanted me to coach her. And so I met her at Starbucks and she shared for an hour all of her pain, all of her past, all of her troubles. And I discerned that the real pain underneath everything she was telling me was the fact that her son was in rehab, in and out of drug rehab, her teen, from the time he was 14. And here he is, 19 years old, 10 different meds. And the source or the root of her pain is the fact that she just can't help him. So she wanted me to help her, but I knew that it was her teen that needed help. So I said, hey, why don't you give me your son for 30 days and I'll transform his life? She goes, how does that work? Well, I said, I'll go pick him up at rehab. We'll get him off his meds. He'll come live with me for 30 days and let's see what happens. So she was like, okay. So she pays me up front to take her teen out of drug rehab and bring him home and put him in one of my bedrooms in my house for 30 days. His life radically shifted, so much so that she's like, well, can you keep him another 30 days? And I'm thinking, he's kind of a slob and he doesn't do the dishes and there's food all over the counters. And do I want another 30 days with this kid? And I just knew that he was in my life for a reason. And it wasn't to send him back out on the streets or send him home to his mother because she didn't really want to take him. So I agreed to another 30 days. And then after those 30 days were up, I agreed to an entire year. And so what I did was I sold my house and I found another house with an ensuite, which is an apartment within the house that I could lock him out of my house and he would be in his 2-room apartment with a kitchenette, and I could teach him how to live and I could teach him how to take care of a space while he was kind of in my space, but kind of not. Andrew stayed with me for a year and it was amazing. Like, he's living on his own now. He's got a motorcycle. He's got a full-time job, and he was on the spectrum, but I didn't know much about spectrum at that point a couple of years ago. Yet, he was ever so slightly on a spectrum. He went from wanting to kill himself to now living his best life a couple of years later. So, yeah, that's probably one of my best teen success stories, Jake, other than, me helping my own teens through their own stuff as a responsible dad.
What a story.
Yeah.
For our listeners, I just want to be clear. We don't offer that at NDC. Just, we're working on it. We don't have that yet. And I think, Mark, like, when we think about what's the gateway drug to a lot of, maladaptive coping skills, like what's the gateway experience? And where research shows us it's trauma. Bad things happen, and sometimes kids don't have the support to deal with it. And they find ways of coping, right? Like drugs or internet pornography or drinking, or there's a lot of things, right? It's easy to hide, right? Hide from that pain. And like, there's this idea here of like that community connection is a thing that heals us. And for people who are neurodivergent, like this kid who's on the spectrum, right? They can have a tougher time finding community because their brains are different. So like, what a powerful thing to offer a place that not only is healing, but offers a pathway to that community, right? Because really that's the thing that so many of our kids need as a place to anchor themselves. Who are the people who love me? Who are the people who are going to help me be the best version of me, right? What a cool thing.
Absolutely right, Dr. Matt. Having the ongoing support where I could build trust and then become coachable and accountable at the same time is key to ongoing success. Now, the proverb says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Author James Allen said, a man is literally what he thinks. And so it all starts with, what am I telling myself? You and I, we could tell ourselves anything that we want after an experience. We can make up any meaning that we want to make up. And so my mom and my dad got divorced when I was 6. Let's take that for example. And that happened in my life. My dad left my mom when I was 6. And the meaning I made up was, my daddy doesn't love me. The truth was that my daddy didn't love my mom. But I made up the meaning that my daddy didn't love me, and that meant that I was unlovable. And when I made up that meaning that I was unlovable, what do you think happened in my behavior? I started to push people away. I started to put walls up, and I started to make sure that I could be right about the fact that I was unlovable, manifesting that in my behavior, blocking love, blocking support, blocking, everything and anything that was good that would have helped me to move past that false belief. Now, it's a false belief, yet it becomes true for me because I keep rehearsing it in my mind that I'm unlovable, my dad doesn't love me. So that goes for anything. I love Napoleon Hill, one of my favorite authors, Think and Grow Rich, and so many other books. Napoleon says that the only control that I have is how I direct my thoughts. I get hundreds and thousands of thoughts coming in each and every day. The only thing I have control over is, what do I do with those thoughts? How do I direct them? If they're lies, I should put them out. If they're truths, I should hold on to them and build on them for the day. Imagine we have the power to direct our thoughts. We have the power to change the narrative in the story in our head. Yet most of us don't even know that that power is in the palm of our hand.
That's exactly the foundation to all the mechanisms of change, right? Thoughts lead to feelings, and feelings lead to behaviors, and behaviors reinforce our thoughts. So if that thought takes root in your brain, my dad doesn't love me, you feel bad, you withdraw, you act out. That leads to behaviors that, reinforce environments like, hey, look at this kid, he's a pain in the butt. I don't want to deal with this kid. They're like, see, I told you I was unlovable. And that's the thing. I mean, so much of what we deal with is people dealing with the symptoms, not the root of the problem, right? Like, I joke all the time. It's like when I watch a kid in school or when I meet a new client, their parents will eventually say to them, like, don't be anxious. Just don't be so anxious. And I'm like, listen, if that worked, I'd be out of a job. If you could change your thoughts in that way, then gosh, it would be over for me. I'd have to find a different job. It'd have to be the world's best high school English teacher, which I would not be sad about. But this idea of changing our relationship to our thoughts, Mark, right? That's what it's all about. Real behavior change comes from changing your relationship to your thoughts. What are the kinds of thoughts you're hearing from your teens right now? Like, I know you touched on it a little bit, but like, what are the themes you're seeing when kids walk through your door?
Yeah, they're very similar for everybody. They don't feel loved. They don't feel accepted. They don't feel like they belong or they're good enough. They don't have confidence. They're disconnected. They lack vision. They lack purpose. They lack focus. They lack discipline. All of it, right? And you just said something profound. Parents tell their teens not to be anxious. Well, the brain can't compute don't. The operative word is anxious. What do you think is going to happen? Don't be anxious becomes a teen that's anxious versus be peaceful, be powerful, be connected, right? Parents, the spoken word is so powerful. And really, the silent word, what we tell ourselves, is just as powerful. It's even worse, though, when it comes out of our mouth, because the spoken word is like a seed that goes in the ground and grows up and bears fruit, either good fruit or bad fruit. So whatever I'm telling myself, whatever I'm saying in the spoken word is going to ultimately lead me to the fruit, good and bad, based upon the words that are coming out of my mouth, based upon the words that are being spoken over my life by my parents, by my teachers, by my coaches, by my peers, even by myself. The challenges for all teens are very similar in the way that this negative self-talk, the negative mental attitude, the negative spoken words, whether it's coming from the teen or from someone else being spoken over their life. These are all the same challenges, yet it all comes back to identity intelligence. Who am I? If I can't answer that question, who am I cannot build a purpose-driven life. Now, if you ask me who I am, hey, my name is Mark. I am a purpose-driven, lion-chasing, giant-slaying champion for God. That's how I define myself. And I look in the mirror and I make sure that I tell myself that very phrase all throughout the day. Why? Because I'm up to big things. I'm looking to transform 5 million teens over the next 10 years, right? And so I need to make sure that I'm a purpose-driven, lion-chasing, giant-slaying champion for God, right? But it didn't start there. It actually started back when my dad left my mom. I'm unlovable. I am unlovable. That was my first I am statement. When I went to Narcotics Anonymous at 20 years old, my new I am statement became, my name is Mark and I am an addict. Convincing myself that I am an addict, where does that leave my behavior to end up? Reflecting addiction and reflecting an addict's behavior, right? Obsessive, compulsive, whatever the case may be. So my next I am statement at 20 became, my name is Mark and I'm an addict. My 3-day workshop back in November 1994, I changed my I am statement to, I am an honest, loving, humble man. Now, in an exercise in that workshop, the I am exercise, I had to come up with a list of adjectives that describe me and then pick 3 that would empower me moving forward. So my next I am statement became, I am an honest, loving, humble man. Parents can do this exercise with their teens at home. Take out a piece of paper, write the words I am on top, have your teen write down all the adjectives, and then lead them to circle 3 adjectives that if they could step into the power of those 3 words and reflect those 3 words on a daily basis, their whole life could change. And why the I am so powerful? I don't know if you read the Bible or if you're Jewish, if you're Christian, but if you go back to the Jewish scriptures, God shows up to Moses in a burning bush, instructs Moses to go speak some authority over Israel. And Moses says, well, who should I tell them sent me? And the burning bush says, I am that I am. So if God is describing himself as the I am, how much more important is it for us to describe ourselves as the I am? If you're a parent listening to this show, get with your teens, have them create an I am statement that they can affirm themselves. It becomes a mantra in their life. And each and every day they can repeat it so that they can be empowered as they move forward in their life. Identity intelligence, that is at the foundation. Nobody's going to build a house on the beach, on the sand, without first laying a foundation, or anywhere else. Nobody's just going to put up a house in a framework because it's just going to come falling down anyway. So we've got to have a foundation as a human being. And that foundation is rooted in identity intelligence, defining who I am. Once we get that right, the lid comes off and everything is possible.
And I love this idea because there's so much pressure on our kids to get that house on the beach. And you might panic and be impulsive into like, well, I'm gonna start building a house. I'm on the beach. I'm here. I'm gonna build a house. And it's like, you actually don't live on the beach. You live next to the beach, right? You're like, where is the bluff? And I'm going to live there so I can walk down to the beach. But Mark, that's exactly it. Like this gotta get it culture. And teens are so susceptible to that. It's you're less than if you don't have as much as whatever the next person is. And because kids, I think, don't have as many things that are actively defining them, I think a lot of the narratives they tell themselves are narratives based on less than. Like narratives like, well, I'm not as popular as Susie. I'm not as physically attractive as Bob. I don't play sports as well as Rico. I don't get as good grades as my sister. I am less, I am less, I am less. And if you can convince yourself you're not as good, then you start treating yourself as someone who is worthy of less good things.
Even the clinical descriptions, OCD. If I got to go through life telling myself that I'm obsessive, compulsive, and I have a disorder, how does that empower me? Why would an OCD be I'm outstanding, I'm connected, and I'm destined? Why don't we just change the labels? Now, I understand that in medical science and in the medical field, there are these definitions of conditions that we have. Yet why not make this little shift so that that definition doesn't define me in a disempowering way? We've got to figure out a way to empower the human being, regardless of how old they are. Why? Because if I'm empowered, then I have hope. And if I have hope, then I can step into a possibility that there's something waiting for me that's greater than the experience I'm having right now. And I think that human beings in general have very little hope today. Why? Because we're all focused on, these negative labels that society puts on us. And then we have what's going on in the world, right? We're facing some of the most challenging times in human history. And so I believe that I have to take personal responsibility, define who I am, affirm who I am, not leave it up to you, not leave it up to doctors, not leave it up to my best friends or my wife. I've got to make sure that I'm clear about who I am and why I'm here and what I am supposed to be doing to contribute to humanity. Because if I can get clear on that, it's a great day, Dr. Matt.
And I think one of the coolest things about working with teens is that their abilities to contribute to humanity are some things that we can predict and some things that already exist. But a lot of it comes from places that we haven't even thought of yet, right? I mean, if you had told me 10 years ago, I'd be working with 10-year-olds who have social media channels with millions of followers who are helping kids. I'd be like, what? That doesn't exist. Like, do you mean like those like grainy YouTube videos? That's a thing? Like the world, I absolutely agree with you, is scary and overwhelming. And and we are bombarded by all of this terrible stuff that's happening. But like kids have the ability to affect real meaningful change in ways that I think didn't exist for our generation and certainly the generation before us. I mean, the stakes are higher, but the barrier to do something good is lower. And that's a really powerful thing.
And the challenges are much greater because you're talking about isolation, you're talking about drugs, talking about teen sex, teen pregnancies, talking about trouble with the law, failing out of school, not understanding how to take a test and score higher. So you don't even try to study, you don't even give it a full effort. Then we have our computers in our hand, which is our phones, social media. Kids are vaping, smoking e-cigarettes, 1 in 4 according to the FDA. You've got 3 in 4 teens have already watched pornography in their teenage years. And, science has proven that pornography changes our brain. Not only do they have the challenges that we had growing up, Matt, but kids have brand new challenges. We're handing over a world to our kids. And I have 5 kids and 2 bonus kids. That makes 7 in total. 2 of them still 16 years old. We're handing over a world that's somewhat, dysfunctional and broken. And they're coming up as the next generation as world leaders and thought leaders and world changers. And we're not making it easy on them. We're not giving them an advantage. We're actually, we're handicapping them, if anything. So what do? How do we help a teen get back to the truth? Well, I've got 8 pillars that are all independently intelligent, but when used collectively, can help a teen go out and dominate their life, both at home and at school, academically and athletically, socially and emotionally. Those 8 pillars: love and respect, truth, faith, forgiveness, connection, confidence, and commitment. The framework in the 3-day workshop is not only built on those 8 pillars, but on those 8 pillars, we've got these 3 intelligences. Who am I? What do I want? And how do I succeed? All of that collectively prepares or fully weaponizes a teen to go out and crush it because they're equipped. They learn that they are not who they've been telling themselves they are. They have permission to change that. And so the work that I've been doing in the academy, in the 3-day workshop, it's probably more fulfilling than anything I've ever done because it takes me back 30 years ago to my roots, to where I was delivered and healed from all the things I mentioned previously. And then I had this burning desire to help others. And so now I take that workshop from 30 years ago and I bring it to life. Here we are 30 years later, and teens are being transformed monthly. And then I have this ongoing workshop support. So a teenager comes in for 3 days. They define who they are. They decide what they want. We build a plan for success. And then weekly, they're on a 1-hour mastermind call with me for 90 days beyond the workshop. So they have ongoing support every Thursday night at 7:00. And then the parents come on and they have ongoing support for 90 days from 8:00 to 9:00. So every Thursday, I'm facilitating this ongoing support, not just for the teen, but for the parent and the entire family.
And really looping in all those systems, right? Like we want to have as much scaffolding around a kid as we can. Jake, you look like you're chopping at the bit dance. I know I've been talking a lot, buddy. Why don't you ask the next question?
I've just been like absorbing a lot because I love your story and it's incredibly fascinating and inspiring. And hearing all this stuff about like social media, the contemporary world, the society that we are in now, and how problematic it is in a sense. Some of my clients that I've worked with and students that I've had in the past have always talked about like a real struggle at home, not like in a negative, like detrimental way, but more of like a lack of agency and not feeling like they're in control of their lives, and that they're like I don't have, control over my schedule. I have to listen to what my parents tell me what to do. They want me to go to this place over here. I have to go. It's bedtime at like 10 p.m., what have you. So like how do you end up navigating some of those kind of like concerns for kids?
It's a great question, Jake. I mean, it's rampant all through the world, and probably every family that has a mother and a father or one or the other. And what do we diagnose? The fact that the parent is pursuing their dreams, the parent is pursuing their abundance and their success and their fulfillment. And so they get home and they really don't have the time or the quality time to spend with their teen, to understand their teen and ask the right questions. And instead, it just becomes this dictatorship. Do this, do that, do it this way. I'm going to take your phone. You're not going to go out this weekend. And it becomes this hierarchy of dictatorship from an irresponsible parent. Let's just call it what it is. Parenting is struggling today. My generation wants to prove that they can be successful, that they can keep up with the Joneses, that they can go out and have a successful life and have as good a car as their neighbor and as beautiful a house as their neighbor and as big of a bank account as the next one. And who cares? Does anybody really care what car I drive? Does anybody really care where I live? Does anybody really care how much money I have in the bank? I'm the only one that cares. But if it comes at the cost of my kid, then I've failed. I don't care how big my house is. If it comes at the cost of raising and leading my teen, my kids into the promised land, then I'm a complete failure. And the truth is, most parents are complete failures. Most parents, all they want is their kids to just obey them at their word, and they don't care about really understanding their kid. They say they do, but they really don't. And now what does the kid have to do? They either have to do what the parent tells them to do, or they disobey the parent and they get punished. And that's why we have so many wounded kids, because we have so many messed up parents that are just not willing to put in the work. What do parents do? They send their teens to therapists, right? I've been a biblical counselor for 25 years, $250 an hour. They send them to me. Why aren't you doing it yourself? Why are you spending $250 to send them to me? I don't get it. Don't you have enough time in your day? You don't have 10 minutes to sit with your kid and raise them up? We send them to boarding schools. Why? Isn't the bedroom at home good enough? We send them to boot camps. We send them to drug rehab. I believe there's a place for all these things, because at some point when you're a responsible parent and you've exhausted every possibility, then okay, I'm looking for outside help, right? We wouldn't have a purpose if we weren't the chosen outside help. I get it. But have you done everything in your power as a parent to create the solution and to lead your child? And I think 90% of the time, the answer is no. The parent just finds it easier to pay their way out of it and let somebody else deal with it. And then the kid grows up feeling unloved. The kid grows up feeling not good enough, not heard. And then all of a sudden, they lose their voice. They no longer have an opinion. They no longer have a voice. They can't really share authentically and openly because they know they're going to get shut down. It's a vicious cycle, wouldn't you say?
I mean, I think you nailed it. I think that there's such a delicate balance between, like, expertise matters, right? Like, the three of us are experts in what we do. One of my favorite interventions to do with families is something called special time. It's from Russell Barkley, and he's like the ADHD guru. And what it is that you spend 20 to 30 minutes once or twice a week, you're hanging out with your kid doing child-directed time. You put your phone away, and if your kid wants to play Minecraft, if your kid wants to play Uno, if your kid wants to try and take pictures of birds, whatever it is, you spend that 20 to 30 minutes with your kid once or twice a week to do that. And I'm telling you, like, all the fancy therapy techniques I have, and I have many, they're effective, but I've never seen something impact a kid more than just investing in shared time with the grown-up you love. And because we crave that connection, and we are all so busy, and we are running around, and I call it the hamster wheel of doom. because you just have to run faster and faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. But it's really just slow down and just say to your kid, like, you are what matters to me right now. You have all of me for the next 30 minutes. What are we doing? Tell me what it is you're doing. Because, we spend so much time telling teens what to do and who to be and how to act and what their futures need to look like. We've stopped listening to them. If a kid shows up wearing an anime t-shirt, you're like, well, why are kids dressing like that? Man, I want to know about that anime. I'm not a big anime guy, right? But if you're into One Piece, you're telling me something about you by how you show up. And I'm going to connect with you in a meaningful way by following that thing that you've shared with me. Right. And it's also like, I don't want to watch a stupid YouTube video. Yeah, no shit. But it means something to your kid. Mark, you were talking a lot about this sort of like top-down parenting that happens, collaborative parenting, right? Like, yeah, because if you can watch that YouTuber for 30 minutes with your kiddo, don't you think your kiddo is going to be that much more likely to do their damn homework, to go with you to the grocery store, to mow the lawn, to XYZ? Like it's a shared investment, right? Because you're investing in the relationship, not just you are broken and I must fix you. Because nobody wants to feel like they're broken, right? Like we say this all the time, like shame has never helped anybody get better, right? You cannot shame a teen into being better. You can help them become aware of the problems they have and then shift our focus. But like you suck, do better has never helped anybody meaningfully change. Oh man.
That's good. That's real good. I think about last week, my daughter, she texted me, Dad, can you meal prep for me this week? I'm like, can I meal prep for you? She's like, yeah, can you make me like meals for the whole week? And she's 23 years old, and she's living her best life as an esthetician and in her mom's med spa. And I'm like, okay, sweetheart, yeah, I'll meal prep. So I get in my car, I go to Costco, I got to buy containers, I get the chicken, the rice, the broccoli, and, some secret sauce. And I come home and I make all these meals and I get some strawberries and, cut up some strawberries for dessert for her. And I text her, come over after work, all your meals are ready. And she just lit up. She was so excited. Monday, she FaceTimes me and she's with all the girls in the spa. And and she's like, hey, Dad, all the girls are wondering if you can meal prep for them this week.
Did you say yes? Did you say no?
I'm like, I gotta go. Goodbye. I love you. See you later.
Oh, we're driving through a tunnel.
Her brother's 16 years old. He comes and sleeps over on Friday night. We wake up. I make him breakfast. We go to the gym to play pickleball. He signs us up 11:30 to 1. We play an hour and a half. He's like, Dad, let's play again. 1 to 2:30. I'm like, okay. So we play again. He's like, hey, let's play this next group, 2:30 to 4. I'm like, I'm going to go up to the pool, son. You play. I'm just going to go up to the pool. And I can't move after 3 hours of pickleball. And he eventually comes up after that next round. So he's now played 4.5 hours and we have lunch together. And then he's like, hey, there's another group at 5. You want to go? I'm like, okay. So we play one more round of pickleball. Like we're at the gym from 11 o'clock till 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. Maybe it was 6:30. And then we stop at the Sicilian kitchen and we get some pasta and we get some pizza for dinner. Like it was a full day. If I had anything on my agenda that day, I wasn't going to be able to do anything. I felt so fulfilled, more fulfilled spending an entire day with my 16-year-old son, accomplishing all that we did versus going out and picking up another client or being a speaker on a platform somewhere. Like if I get it right with my kids, I know I've done my job because the first people that I need to effectively impact and influence are my own children. After that, it's all a bonus. So hopefully the parents that are listening to our podcast will start to check in with their parenting and their parenting skills and the way they approach parenting, and that they realize and recognize that the future of their kids depends on their ability to raise up leaders, ask quality questions, spend quality time with their kids, and to allow their kids to start to shape and mold their own lives because they're making good choices, because they have the ability to make those choices versus just being told what to do.
You model the thing here that's beautiful. I think a lot of parents get stuck in this sort of all or nothing thinking of like, to be with my kid, I have to say yes to my kid, but I don't always want to say yes to my kid. Like, you're a 60-year-old man. Like, there's a finite amount of pickleball you can play in a day, right? I'm 41. There's a finite amount of soccer I can play with my kids. Like, then the lower back tightens up, and if I'm not careful, I'm no good to anybody for a weekend. So, like, you finding that middle ground between, like, I love you, I'm here with you, I want to do these things, but there are also reasonable boundaries and limits around that time. Like, you didn't reject your kid. You were like, how dare you ask me that, you jerk? You were like, hey, I got to take a minute. Like, that's how we maintain our humanity as parents. Because what happens if we say yes, 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 sooner or later we get resentful and we blow up and we push our kid further away. We always say all the time, like, this work is about love and boundaries. If you are going to meaningfully impact your kid, you've got to have love and boundaries. And Mark, it sounds like in your program, that's something you guys are doing really well.
Love is the most important. Love conquers all, right? So if it's rooted in love, it's going to turn out good at some point.
Jake, I think we have our title for this episode.
I was just gonna say.
It
usually happens around this time period.
Right? I mean, it's like those beautiful summation moments. Oh gosh, Mark, I feel like we could talk to you about forever. And we didn't even really get to talk about the role faith plays in something like this, which, let's have you back at some point. We can really take a proper deep dive into that, because I think that faith and mental health have a lot more in common than people think. And I think that's a worthy and rich thing to discuss, because, I just think that would be fascinating.
That'd be exciting. Absolutely. And you know what? I think it would be exciting because, we talked about all of the challenges teens face with drugs, sex, porn, vaping, their phones, social media, the law. I think you'd agree, correct me if I'm wrong, but in humanity, in society, we've got this hole and we're trying to fill it with all the wrong things. Now, I grew up Jewish. Then I became a completed Jew by becoming a Christian. So I'm still Jewish. But faith, like filling that hole inside of me with God, with faith, is the only thing that actually ever filled the hole. And so I'd love to come back and talk about that at some point. And hey,
okay.
I asked you earlier on if I could give away a book. It's called The Wisdom Journal. I got approval to use the NASB version of the Bible on the day that my mother died. I got the email from the Lockman Foundation. Yes, you can use our version of the Bible in your Wisdom Journal. Fascinating, that happened on the day that my mother passed. Anyway, I want to give away this journal. It's 31 Proverbs, 31 days, wisdom for life. You get to read a proverb, pick out a verse, figure out what it means, interpret what God is showing you, and then build the battle plan for the day. And I'd like to give it to all the listeners for free, if that's okay. Maybe you could put the link up, 31wise.com, 31wise.com, and then they can go and they can get their free journal sent to their house.
I knew it was coming, and it still is surprising, and just in how generous it is. Mark, for our listeners out there who maybe don't do the Proverbs Bible thing, right? Because there's we serve people from all walks of lives. Would you think that this is something that, even if you aren't necessarily a Christian per se, would be helpful?
Thank you for that question. So I wrote this for people that don't read the Bible. And it's a Jewish book in the Bible. The Proverbs is affectionately called the Book of Wisdom, written by the wisest man to ever live, King Solomon, the wisest, wealthiest man that ever walked the planet. Most of the Proverbs, I think maybe 27 out of 31 or 28 out of 31 were written by King David's son, Solomon. And so this is a generic book. What it does is it helps me to hear from God directly through the Proverbs, accessing the wisdom of God without having really a close relationship with God, or maybe I'm struggling in my faith and perhaps I don't go to church or synagogue, or it doesn't matter. It's all rooted in wisdom. And If you need wisdom for parenting, if you need wisdom for purpose, if you need wisdom for marriage, if you need wisdom for career, if you need wisdom for health, for friendship, for family, it's all right here.
What a cool thing. All right. Well, that is going to be quite the giveaway. I think a lot of people are going to be asking you for that. As we start to wrap up our time together, Mark, we're going to shift into sort of our wrap up questions. Jake, do you want to take the first one?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very, very curious what your word's going to be. But what's your favorite word and why? So I feel like there's like 10 or so that you've said so far that I feel like I could see you being like, this is the one.
Right?
My favorite word?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I have so many favorite words. Probably Mark.
But why?
Just, just, just kidding. Just kidding. You know,
Oh man.
Goes back to that I am thing.
I am I, right? That's
definitely not Mark and definitely Jesus. Yeah, for sure. It's my favorite word. Why? Because after love, I think the greatest, most powerful word is forgiveness. And to forgive my sins, that display of love, my favorite word is Jesus. Yeah, for sure. Jewish, Yeshua, Jesus. In English, Joshua. I named my son Joshua. He's my 16-year-old. So anybody on a journey trying to, discover their faith, just keep moving.
That I have a question for you from that real quick. Does that mean that your 16-year-old son Joshua is your favorite kid? You don't have to answer that.
diabolical, Jake. Diabolical.
I have seven favorite kids. I love them all the same. I don't like them the same, but I love them all the same.
It's the best way to answer that.
Looking like a true parent.
That's for sure.
Oh boy. So my question is going to feel super shallow and ridiculous based on that wonderful exhortation on Jesus. So yay for me. Mark, if you could have any superhero on speed dial, who would it be and why?
Wow. I guess it would probably be Wolverine because I'm a huge Hugh Jackman fan. I'm not big on Marvel, so I can't even tell you why. But I'm choosing Wolverine.
He's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic, though.
Yeah.
And like you, Wolverine is indestructible. I mean, Mark, your journey is so raw and vulnerable because like Wolverine, you've taken a lot of hits and you've recovered and you've healed and now you're a leader. Nobody would have blamed you if you kept taking those hits and crawled and got smaller and gave up, as it were. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me actually that you'd be drawn to somebody like Wolverine.
Like the subconscious bit there. Absolutely.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks, Jake. The pain of the past becomes the power of our purpose. The pain of my past became the power of my purpose. If you listen to any great leader or any great story, they found themselves in a pit and they discovered how to get out of the pit. It's part of the journey. It's part of our journey to fail, to fall, to lose, because we don't learn anything by winning, but we learn everything by failing, falling, and the pain. Character is not built from winning. It's built from losing. It's built from pain. It's built from trials and tribulations, obstacles and adversity. And when you finally get that, and it's hard to get that at 12, 15, 20, 30, but when you get it, you begin to welcome, the challenges in life as part of the journey. And when those challenges show up, you're on the right path because you're being shaped and molded into something greater than you currently are.
Well, I don't think we're going to find a better thing to wrap up on than that. Mark, tell us, how can people find you? How can people track you down?
Just have them call you.
Oh, I'm your booking agent now?
Like, yes, this is Dr. Matt Zakreski. Let me transfer you over.
You're all important to us. Please stay on the line.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, for parents, you can go to the website, the Dream Teen, TEEN, thedreamteen.com. If you're an adult, you want to check out some things, you go to marcfeinberg.com. And those are my two websites. You get a free 1-hour coaching call with me if you need to handle some business as a parent, in your marriage, as an entrepreneur, as an athlete, as a young adult. You can easily set up a call with me on the websites or on calendly.com/Marc Feinberg. But make sure you go to 31wise.com and get your free wisdom journal, because I'd love to get this beautiful tool and work that I accomplished a couple of years ago into your hands. And if I can help you and bridge the gap for you, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Well, then you guys know how to track Marc down. And yes, if you do call me, I will get you in touch with him, because any excuse to talk to Marc is a good one. But for all of us here at Nerding Out on Neurodiversity, thank you for going on this journey with us. I know I learned a lot. I feel moved by this conversation. What a beautiful way to see all the different pathways we can take towards healing. That's why we talk to people outside of our field and learn from somebody like Marc. So Marc, it was a pleasure. Thanks for coming. So for all of you out there, keep learning, keep growing. Thank you for trusting us with your time. I'm Dr. Matt Zakreski. Jake, you want to say goodbye?
Absolutely. It's great to be here. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And Marc, thank you 100 times over for being here. It was wonderful to have you.
Have a great day.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Nerding Out on Neurodiversity is brought to you by Dr. Matt Zakreski and the team at the Neurodiversity Collective. To learn more about the Neurodiversity Collective or to be a guest on the podcast, please visit our website at www.theneurodversitycollective.com/podcast. Audio and production by Jake Noonan. Show your support by subscribing, leaving a 5-star review, and telling your friends about us. Our Instagram and social media handles are at #NoonPodcast, NOON podcast. Your support is appreciated and keeps us going. All discussions presented on this podcast are strictly for informational purposes, awareness, and understanding. The advice presented is not and should not be considered to be therapeutic in nature. If you have any mental health questions, please contact your provider. All rights reserved.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.